Thanks for listening to the latest Beyond the Back Four podcast, available on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Subscribe now so you don't miss a single episode.
Welcome back to Beyond the Back Four. Graeme Bailey and Kieran Maguire with me, as always, to go through everything that happened over the weekend. So, where to begin? Well, Chelsea beat Liverpool in an absolute thriller that saw Enzo Maresca sent off at the death. Manchester United finally won a game, but there wasn't no controversy involved in that one. There was some VAR drama. We're going to get Mark Clattenburg's opinion on that. And Bukayo Saka hit another milestone as Arsenal, very quietly and very comfortably, just went about their business. Right, let's get straight into it. I want to start right now by reminding everyone watching that we are doing this twice a week. We have our reaction show on a Monday and then our deep dive analysis show on a Wednesday. This week, we'll be talking about whether or not football is pricing out the fans. So make sure you are subscribed. Get involved in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know what you think of the pod and the things that we're talking about. We'd love that. Let's go to Stamford Bridge. They left it late. They beat the team that keep winning late. Graeme, what did you think of the game?
Yeah, it was a good game. It was one of these, I think we spoke a few episodes ago. It was just a good Premier League game. We've seen a few of them this season. And yeah, Chelsea are a very good team. We know that. They've got one of the best squads in Europe. And yeah, were they deserving of the win? Maybe, maybe not. But, you know, Caicedo's performance was sublime. And I was glad for Estevao to see him get off the mark. Yeah, it was a good game, good fun for the neutral.
Talk to us a bit about Estevao and how impressed you've been with him and what his ceiling might be.
Oh, his ceiling is, you know, he's come in as one of the finest products potentially that Chelsea will ever get. You know, they beat all of Europe to him. He's in the Vinicius Junior category. He's that good, and yeah, he's a wonderful player. I think he's settled pretty well, really, considering he's come from South America at such a young age. I think he's done pretty well, but you know, even in that game, we saw a glimpse of Garnacho. Gittins actually showed something for the first time since he arrived. It just highlights some really good recruitment from Chelsea. But yeah, Estevao is a potential superstar. I know we haven't seen a lot of him just yet, but in the Chelsea squad, it allows them to bring them on gradually. Yeah, but I was really chuffed for him. There's a lot more to come from him, though.
When it comes to Chelsea and players like Estevao and Graeme mentioned Gittins, and then obviously they've signed Garnacho, is part of the model that if Estevao is a huge success in a couple of years, you'd expect to see him leave the club?
Yes, I know Chelsea fans don't necessarily want to hear this, and they will reply that they are the world champions. But they are a trading club. And because they have a capacity of Stamford Bridge, which is between 20 to 35,000 lower than their peer group, because they have no front of shirt sponsor for 3 years out of 4, this does put them at a financial disadvantage. And where Chelsea outperform all the other clubs, not just in the Premier League, but also in Europe, is their ability to generate profits from player sales. And they do deserve a lot of credit on that. So bringing in the players young, with a view to saying, whilst there might only be 2, perhaps 3 clubs in the rest of the planet that they're willing to let this player go to, or this player might aspire to go to, they still take that into consideration. We saw it with Eden Hazard. We've seen that with some other players as well, that they can come, develop, and still go off at a significantly higher fee.
Just in case people are listening going, but why would they choose not to have a shirt sponsor? Could you enlighten?
Like many other disputes in football, it all comes down to price and perception of value. The price that Chelsea have been quoting to sponsors is one where that everybody else has walked out the door. It's a bit like Spurs and the naming rights for White Hart Lane, as it is known amongst football fans, or the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, as it is known to the media. It's a case of just getting that deal to get both parties. Chelsea fervently believe that having won the Premier League in 2016 and therefore becoming the world champions in 2025, that the value of the club is significantly higher than what would appear to be the case from an advertiser's perspective. They do have a global fan base. They are very strong in certain markets around the world, but it doesn't necessarily tie in where the sponsors want them to be strong. from an eyeballs point of view, and also from a spend in terms of fans' point of view. And you can't get those two parties to agree. So we had the strange deal a couple of years ago with Infinite Athlete, which was certainly lucrative for Chelsea, but that kicked in after the start of the season. Nothing last season until the last couple of games. Nothing this season. It's great for fans that don't like logos on the front of their shirts. It's absolutely wonderful. But when you've got Manchester United getting £70 million a year from Snapdragon, when you've got Liverpool with a really good deal with Standard Chartered, Spurs are probably on 40-ish with their sponsors and so on. It does create a bit of a gap. You add to that the fact that Chelsea get lower match day receipts, and it means that they have to overwork, in my view, as far as the transfer market is concerned, in order to be competitive.
Thank you very much. We're now going to get the view of Mark Clattenburg. Alan Shearer was unhappy with Maresca getting sent off, but does he agree with his fellow Geordie?
He was given a yellow card for the celebration. I've listened to several pundits around football complaining that the yellow card is harsh. It shouldn't be. But what we have to remember is the LMA, which is the League Managers Association, the PFA, the Premier League, and the FA and the PGMOL got together because they had an issue with the technical area participants, and they felt that there was a problem within the technical areas where coaches were overstepping the mark. And what we've got to understand here is Enzo Maresca was not given a straight red card for the celebration. He was given a yellow card. So he'd received 2 yellow cards in the game. And what we've got to remember is the first yellow card was for dissent. Therefore, he's got no defence to say that, it's harsh, because he was given the first one for dissent. So therefore, he said something to the match officials, or he showed some behaviour that was not accepted. So his first yellow card was for that. His second yellow card was for the celebration. They agreed that if this happened, this manager or a participant within the technical area will be cautioned. They've accepted that at the start of the season, so the referees have to act on that. Very similar how we see when a referee gives a player second yellow for a shirt removal, which we saw in the Carabao Cup between Liverpool and Southampton with Ekitike. When he scored a goal, he was given a second yellow, and everybody called him silly for removing that shirt. So nobody's really saying Maresca's given is also silly in his actions for getting sent off. Everybody's saying it's harsh. I think referees would love that this rule wasn't in place. Therefore, they can allow the coach to do what he wants and then let the FA deal with it afterwards. But while the rule is in place, which was agreed between the LMA, the PFA, the Premier League, the FA and the PGMOL, while it's in place, the referee has to act on it like it has with a shirt removal. And therefore, the referee was well within his rights to issue that yellow card. You can call him a party pooper, but you can call the referee whatever. He's only applying the law as it's written and expected that the referee has to act on this, bearing in mind that we all see over the last 1 or 2 years that the participants in the technical area have been overstepping the mark. So I think we can accept some things as referees, but while we get criticised for something that is agreed by other people, is very, very harsh. And sometimes I'll always defend referees when they need to be defended. And I'll also criticise referees when they need to be criticised, which I will in a moment. Sometimes referees get criticised by pundits when they should realise that they're only applying what has been approved by other people. So I accept that this yellow card, I would prefer in the future that if this happens, I love the moment. I love the passion of the Premier League, and I love coaches doing this. And I think the referee, if the rule wasn't in place, the referee would have just said, you know what, I love this moment. I love the passion. Let's move on. But while the rule is in place, I expected a yellow card. The yellow card came, and there's no problem from my side of it. So from a refereeing point of view, he applied the laws as it's written. If they want to change the laws in the future, I'm more than happy with that. But while it's in place, we'll have to accept it.
Okay, that's the rules. Graeme, happy with that?
Yeah, I enjoyed what Maresca did. I think Blue Core should use this as a publicity stunt, come out and say, "Oh, we're going to pay for his fine," and then donate some charity. Take advantage of it. But I don't have any problem with that rule being in place. I don't think you can encourage coaches to run up and down the touchline personally. I think in today's world where, there's no fences, you can't stop fans getting there. I think there are issues around that and the celebrations. So it was a bit of fun. I don't think anyone Chelsea's really that bothered by it, Hey, if it means a few more Maresca bookings and celebrations, I think they'll take it from now to the end of the season. So yeah, I think it was good. But yeah, I don't really think anyone's got too many complaints. And we knew it was coming.
Just before we move on to Arsenal, Kieran, this is one of those rare questions, but I'm just going to ask you for your opinion. And I know you're going to say, I'm not a football fan. You just love spreadsheets and money. But Arne Slot has now lost 3 games in a row for the first time in his managerial career. Disaster. A flop, a failure, useless.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm more concerned that he's going to start not cutting his hair until Liverpool win 3 or 4 matches in a row, and we'll look to see how that develops. We are living in the era where the 24-hour football cycle is huge, and a week in politics is a big thing. A week in football is a gigantic thing. Liverpool probably slightly overperformed in terms of results prior to last Saturday. And they probably underperformed in terms of results since then. And it's probably evened itself out. If those 3 defeats had been spread over the first 10, 11 games that we've had in terms of cup matches and European matches and so on, I think Liverpool fans would have said, well, it's not great, but we'd accept it. It's when things become concentrated that fans, I think, tend to overreact. And it's good pickings as far as the media are concerned. Liverpool generate eyeballs. They generate interactions. We're not used to this in the Klopp era. We're not used to this. Slot came in so professionally 12 months ago, and Liverpool were by far the best team in the Premier League, that I think it's taken people aback. You then look at it from my perspective, it's a record level expenditure as far as Liverpool FC are concerned. They've broken the domestic record, and things aren't quite working. So therefore you're looking for scapegoats. Slot didn't recruit those players. FSG's computer did. He is very much the coach, and certainly he'll have some input there. So I feel a lot of sympathy for him. I think he's an incredibly professional guy. I'm very impressed by the way he conducts himself. But yeah, if you're going to take on a Liverpool job, the heat's going to be there.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, let's talk Arsenal. Now, top of the Premier League, 177 wins for Mikel Arteta in 300 games. Does that represent money well spent?
In my view, it probably does, because if you take a look at where Arsenal were a few seasons ago, they had gone through a lot of navel-gazing as a club as to what they wanted to be. Arsenal's wage bill was very competitive, but the players that they recruited were perhaps from the Galactico school of player recruitment and didn't justify the wages in terms of what we were seeing on the pitch. So Stan Kroenke and co went through that sort of very painful exercise of letting the likes of Ozil and Aubameyang go, and the club wasn't qualifying for the Champions League, so therefore that put them into a financial straitjacket, which they've had to extricate themselves from slowly, and Arteta has been part of that. And what we're now seeing is they're performing on the pitch. They were the bookies' favourites to win the Premier League after the previous weekend when Liverpool first lost to Crystal Palace, and I think that surprised quite a few people, but not people who are looking at things from a holistic perspective, which is not a word I like to use as a football fan. And now they're getting value for money. A boring 2-0 victory is how you win Premier League titles. Whereas we've seen with Liverpool, fantastic excitement in practically every game they've played. But we saw fantastic excitement with Kevin Keegan's Newcastle United, and that was always in danger of imploding, which is great theatre. But sometimes being dull and being a teetotal chartered accountant, I know an awful lot about being dull, does have its benefits.
He would have loved it if they'd won. Graeme, now that Arsenal have got Saka fit, scoring goals, and he's really become the symbol of this Arsenal team, how far can they go if they can keep Saka fit? Because Odegaard is setting Premier League records for not being able to finish home games, but they seem to be doing okay without him.
Yes, yeah, it's obviously it shows how far they've come with the squad. I think the fact that the off-field they're getting it right. Andrea Berta's coming in the summer, and let's not forget when Arteta first came in, he was responsible for a few additions that have recently stanked the place out. Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus have not been good returns, and they were very, very costly signings. But I think they've learned. What I like about Arsenal, they've learned from that. And they've learned from the whole situation. They've progressed. And Saka, yeah, it's essential he plays. And obviously, financially, for Saka is the next big contract coming up. We do believe he'll be the first £300,000 a week footballer at Arsenal. And that deal might actually be done in the coming weeks. In this international break is going to be key to that. So, yeah, it's all going to be very good news on the field and off field. Yeah. But, yeah, keeping Saka and Odegaard fit is huge because, as I said before, Odegaard is one of the best in the world in midfield. And Saka is one of the very best in the world at what he does. So no matter how deep a squad is, you still need your best players available.
I want to ask Kieran about that possible contract and about the value of that contract. Before we do, just to focus on the game, I want to get Mark's view on the penalty that Saka eventually scored. The foul was on during timber. Mark, tell us.
It upset West Ham fans. And I want to break the law down because Arsenal were given a penalty and the contact on timber was just outside the penalty area. So the initial contact by the defender of West Ham was just outside. We all accept when we slow it down, the referee only has one view. So I accept the referee's decision that because the attacker falls inside the penalty area, I can understand why the penalty was given originally. But when you watch it in slow motion, which Michael Oliver, the VAR, has, you can clearly see the contact is outside and it carries on inside. But what we have to remember in the laws of the game, if a tackle starts outside and carries on inside, the law states that the tackle needs to be punished at the moment of the contact. So the first contact has to be punished if the tackle goes inside the area. There's 2 points to this. If after that tackle, the defender makes a secondary action of a tripping action, then it can be a penalty. But if it's only one action of the tackle that starts outside and comes inside, then the contact is outside and it should have been a free kick. The other second point is if it's a hold and the hold starts outside and carries on inside, then the hold will be given as a penalty because the hold carries on inside. So there's two difference. One for a tackle, which starts outside and carries on inside, it has to be outside. If it's a hold, starts outside and carries on inside, it will be given as a penalty. So there's the two differences within the laws of the game. Michael Oliver has seen this and maybe he's forgot the law. The law is clear. And I think they've forgotten the law. And we saw this back in the semi-final of the Champions League between Inter Milan and Barcelona, when Szymon Marciniak, the Polish referee, awarded Barcelona a penalty. And I think the foul was made by Mkhitaryan of Inter Milan, where he fouled outside the penalty area and it carried on inside. The referee awarded a penalty. They went to VAR and the decision was changed. And that was based on the laws of the game because of exactly the same situation which happened in West Ham, Arsenal via West Ham on Saturday. So there's a difference. Many people forget the law, but the law is clear. And I think some people think because the tackle still carries on inside, it must be a penalty. But the law is clear. It should have been punished by a free kick. So the referee gets this one wrong. And also the VAR gets this one wrong.
So it shouldn't have been a penalty, I think is what we're saying there.
Perhaps we need AI VAR, who knows all the rules.
That would be, maybe that's the future. There's probably a really scary scenario in which that is actually the future.
It's when we got the AI players that worries me.
Oh, that'll be good though. Right, just quickly on what Graeme was saying there, Kieran. £300,000 a week for Bukayo Saka, Arsenal's first £300,000 a week player. Does this fit within their financial structures? Is it good? Is it good business from Arsenal? Does it put more pressure on the manager because it's more investment in the squad?
I think it's a very good deal for Arsenal. First of all, you want players to be happy and feel valued, and I think Bukayo Saka will do so should this deal be signed. But from Arsenal's point of view, and that of all other clubs, especially elite clubs, you look at the total cost of employing the player each year, and that total cost is this horrible word amortization, which is taking the transfer fee and spreading over the life of the contract. Bukayo Saka is a £120 million player. So if he signs in a 5-year contract, that's £24 million a year. Well, that's 450, 460 grand a week in amortization, plus his wages. So even if they're just paying him 200 grand in wages, that's what, 650, 660. They're actually getting him for half price. That's the way I look at it. Because, again, you've got to take a look not just at one aspect of recruiting a player, but the other one. And also, I think Arsenal have learnt lessons from when they had Ashley Cole. Again, he came through the ranks, and fantastic player. He was offered a derisory £60,000 a week. Yeah, and let's face it, who would get out of bed for that these days? At the time, and he left to go to Chelsea, and it left a bad taste in the mouth between the club and the player and the fan base. And I think Arsenal will have reflected on that, and they don't want to repeat such behaviour. So it's a good deal for the player. It's a good deal for Arsenal because if Saka decides in 3 or 4 years' time, I really enjoyed my time playing in London, but I know that Real Madrid are interested in me, and I like the idea of playing in Madrid. And from a footballing perspective, it is the pinnacle. I think you have to be honest in terms of Real Madrid attract players like no other club on the planet. Then he's still got another 2 years left on his contract. So that protects his transfer value as far as Arsenal are concerned. So they win, player wins, the fans win. Happy days. And it's cheap.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on now to Manchester United, who finally won a game without embarrassing themselves. But there was a load of penalty drama between Sesko and Hume. The officials gave the penalty, the VAR got involved, and it was all pretty chaotic. Eventually, no penalty was given. So basically, we need Mark to explain this one to us as well.
We had Stuart Atwell, the referee, in the Manchester United vs Sunderland match, award a corner kick at first. He then takes advice from his assistant referee, which he's allowed to do. He's allowed to take advice from the assistant referee if he's got a better angle. What I can't understand, why Stuart Atwell, who was well placed, wants to take another piece of advice from an assistant referee who must be 50, 60 yards away from play. Yes, he might have a better angle, but distance plays a huge part in that decision making. Stuart Atwell was in the best place to give a corner. But for some reason, Stuart was advised and, changed his mind to go from a corner to a penalty kick, which he's allowed to do within the laws of the game. Without VAR intervention, he's allowed to change his decision based on the assistant or fourth official's advice. So the penalty was given. What you then see, I think it was Hume of Sunderland, if I recall correctly, and Sesko of Manchester United. Sesko raises his foot, but there's no contact. There's absolutely no contact by Sesko on the Sunderland defender. In fact, the ball hits the the attacker's head, which the Sunderland player is head, and that's where maybe they thought that there was a contact because the player goes down holding his face. But what the VAR does very, very clever, he then sees the images. He clearly sees there's no contact. The ball has hit the player's face, not the foot. So recommends a review. And that's when Stuart Atwell goes to the on-field monitor, changes his decision from a penalty kick back to a corner based on the images that was given by the VAR. So the process was correct. I didn't agree with what Stuart Atwell did originally. From the corner to the penalty from an advice from an assistant who wasn't well positioned. So I think the assistant referee was wrong to interfere. But within the laws and within the the VAR protocol, he's allowed to change his decision on the field because they're match officials, they're a team. But the right decision was made in the end because this is not a penalty kick. When a player raises his foot, makes absolutely no contact and doesn't affect the player's ability to play the ball. In fact, the ball hits the Sunderland player's face. Therefore, the correct decision was made in the end. So we saw some good practices this weekend of refereeing, but we also seen some interesting situations where, again, the Pigeon World this week have came out and apologised to Manchester United with a mistake at Brentford recently. Pigeon World are making so many, the referees are making so many errors, and there's so many apologies coming from Pigeon World. It's seriously difficult at the moment, morale for referees, when each week the referees are being called out by the head of referee and Howard Webb for making mistakes, and the taking off fixtures, which we saw with Andy Madley, who wasn't involved this weekend for his mistake in Manchester United, and the losing quality referees. And there's one situation or one big point that needs to be brought is there needs to be better education for the referees, because at the moment we're seeing 1 week decisions punished and we're seeing other weeks not. And what we need, and all we want as football fans, pundits, managers, players, is consistency. And once we get consistency and we get similar decisions punished correctly the same week in, week out, we'll end up getting a better understanding about refereeing and VAR, and we'll be more and more happier going forward.
Thank you very much, Mark. So, Kieran, Mark talked there from the referee's perspective of the pressures they're under. But what about the pressure the Premier League is under? Because this was an absolute circus. It's one of the most ridiculous ones we've seen. Are they risking real reputational damage? Because hardcore football fans that are going to games might get frustrated, but you're still going to fill stadiums. Is there a possibility that global audiences will just get sick of this?
No, not at all. Getting angry works in football. You've only now got to look on YouTube and the other streaming channels that the professional overreaction of many fans to decisions is great for business. Controversy is good. Anger sells. Yeah, that's how the algorithm works. So referees getting decisions wrong, but when you make that decision, and I thought Mark's explanations of the rules have been absolutely fascinating, and his experience and insight are excellent. He will also, of course, tell you that you've got a millisecond in which to form an opinion, and you go through due process now, thanks to VAR and all that brings. So, well, I personally, I'd never want to hear Howard Webb give me he doesn't owe me anything. If the referee made an honest decision and got it wrong, and VAR made an honest decision and got it wrong, it's when referees don't make honest decisions. And I'm fortunate enough that I teach football players and I teach football managers, and one manager who everybody will know their name was telling me about when he once managed overseas, and the club owner walked in, sort of 2/3 into the season, and said, "Okay, lads, we've agreed this one. It's a 3-1 defeat." And they went out and they delivered a 3-1 defeat. Yeah, that's when you start to worry about football. What we're seeing in terms of decision making is some you get right, some you get wrong. It's a fast game. I don't have an issue. My team have never lost a match due to a referee. It's due to the fact that ultimately we've conceded too many goals and not scored enough. The number of times centre forwards have missed sitters, goalkeepers have done howlers, and so on. They don't get the same level of abuse as referees.
Graeme, we are more or less run out of time, but I just want to check in with you. Manchester United Sunderland, Šeško has scored 2 in 2, his first home goal in the Premier League. Ruben Amorim is the first Manchester United manager since Sir Alex Ferguson to win his 50th game in charge. Obviously, what that means is he hasn't won 50 games, obviously, but he's won the 50th game that he has been the manager. So the Mighty Reds are back, and the rest of the Premier League should be fearful. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it's a wonderful clutching at straws you're doing there, Sam. Let's back Amorim while we can. Just I do want to touch one thing where, Sam, you talk about the circus at Old Trafford. All this VAR thing, as Mark brilliantly explained, I'll be more worried about that Arsenal decision. They got that wrong after reviewing it. I don't think the Sunderland thing was a circus because, in actual fact, in real time, that looked a nailed-on penalty to me. In Sesko kicking him in the head, it looked a nailed-on penalty, and then they got the right decision in the end. What worries me more this weekend is that Arsenal decision that got wrong after consulting VAR. That's the real worry, I think, from the weekend. I think the United one was fine. They got the right decision in the end. All good.
Thank you to both of you, as always, for your insights. We're wrapping up because we're over our half an hour time slot. So everyone that is listening, thank you so much for listening to Beyond the Back Four. We've got a target. We want 1,000 YouTube subscribers by Christmas, and make sure you have done exactly that. We will see you on Wednesday, where we will be discussing whether or not the football world is pricing out fans. And you know who's going to have some opinions on that? It's Mr. 18 train tickets himself, Kieran Maguire. We'll see you then.